Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lamp brought to you by Sarah Jane Media. This is episode number 6 as we are moving along with the Ramadan special program. We're here today again with our learned scholar Sheikh Baimba, who is going to take us through for the last few days of Ramadan heading towards Eid Fitr. As we all know, Ramadan is the holy month in the Muslim calendar where every Muslim participates in fasting and praying for 30 days or 29 days, according to the sightseeing of the moon. But today we're going to be talking to Sheikh Baimba, who is going to take us through for the final few days, as we've already spoken about the initial thoughts of what Ramadan is all about. And we also spoke about the 10 days of Ramadan that brings us to the Laylatul-Qadr, which I think was one of the most important segments of the Ramadan program that we've had on the L.A.M.P so far. But today I'm going to welcome Sheikh. Sheikh, welcome again once more. Like I said to the viewers a couple of weeks ago, you're going to be seeing Sheikh Baimba here on a regular basis, not just for the period of Ramadan, but also after Ramadan. Welcome to the program once more.
Thank you very much for having me.
I know today we are coming to the last few days of Ramadan. I know we've done the last 10 days, which took us to Laylatul-Qadr, which I think was celebrated a couple of days ago within the various different mosques all over the world. And some people are participating in the Laylatul-Qadr every other day just for them to be on the right track. Yes. So give us a short brief of Laylatul-Qadr that you have already celebrated, which is a celebration per se, because I think it's very important, because it brings in people from various different walks of life to conjugate at the mosque, which happens once, and it is for a specific reason, for finding out when the Laylatul-Qadr is the most blessed day of the Ramadan period. So give us a little bit of experience of that sort of Laylatul-Qadr that you guys have at the mosque.
Okay, Bismillah, salatu salam rasulullah. Welcome viewers to this episode. We say, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. We were able to observe the Laylatul Qadr yesterday night at our masjid in Brixton, North Brixton Islamic Cultural Center. We stayed up all night and we did the Taraweeh prayers, and then we continued praying two rakahs, and in between we gave very important, concise lectures about the importance of the night, and then we were able also to raise funds, and at the end of it we concluded the reading of the whole Quran and then the dua, and then we break up to have sahur, which is the food that you eat.
The sokoli in the morning.
The sokoli, yes, in the morning, as is locally known, and then we prayed Fajr. So the importance of Laylatul Qadr is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Qadr, the surah that speaks about the night of power.
Right.
He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He revealed the Quran in the night of power. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. What will make you understand what Laylatul Qadr is? Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. The Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, is better than 1,000 months. Now what happens in Laylatul Qadr? تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالرُّوحُ فِيهَا. Then the Archangel Jibril would descend, and angels will be descending in multiples. بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ, with the permission of their Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salamun here, and there will be peace. Hatta matla'il fajr, until dawn. So this night is so powerful that any act of worship that you are fortunate to do on that night is better than 1,000 months when it's accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore the ummah the whole world, Muslims all over the world, they seek Laylatul Qadr in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And the narrations that were reported by the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or from the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam emphasized the odd nights, and then there are many more narrations emphasizing the 27th night. So that's why we chose yesterday night, and inshallah some brothers are doing theirs today,
Okay.
and some masjid are doing theirs today, and also Sunday night could also be a possible Laylatul Qadr night, because it's also an odd number night.
So what you're saying basically, your Laylatul Qadr is not yet finished. It's just the fact that you decided to do it on that particular day, which is on a Friday, and then you have now Sunday, and then you have finally, which will be we now need to know whether we're going to pray on that particular day or not. So Laylatul Qadr continues.
Yes, seeking Laylatul Qadr continues, because that's why the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam recommended, and he led from the front by doing itikaf, by secluding himself in the masjid, just to seek Laylatul Qadr. And then he woke his family up, young, elderly. He told them to do more in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. So we don't know, but we just try to seek it in those odd number nights, as well as in the even night as well. So there could be another possible night. So that's why we're going to pray our Taraweeh, and then in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock, 2:30, we're also going to do a Tahajjud or Qiyamul Layl, just so that we may be fortunate to have one or more Laylatul Qadrs in our life.
Okay.
I was giving a talk yesterday night, and I said, if you are fortunate to have gotten 10 Laylatul Qadr in your lifetime, just 10, and Laylatul Qadr is better than 1,000 months, and according to the calculation, 1,000 months is 83 years and 3 months. So if you multiply 83 by 10, so you have 830 days, 830 years to your credit. And that is a build-up, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a build-up to Al-Jannah, based on the fact that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with what you do, because he says in Surah Al-Bayna, radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu. So Allah is pleased with them, and they are pleased with Allah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us. So we are urging brothers and sisters who have not done so, that every single night that's left, I think we have 3 more nights possibly left in the Ramadan, that you would give charity, you do something good to your neighbors, to the neighborhood, to people who are in their need. You provide whatever you can by the means that you have, not by other means, but by what you are capable of doing. And if those acts of worship are accepted, then it's better than 1,000 months.
All right, I'm just going to reinforce that. Sheikh, I've just said it again once more, and it's for all of those who are watching. If you did Laylatul Qadr this Friday at the North Brixton Islamic Center, continue to seek Laylatul Qadr, because it's not the end of it. And sometimes people just relax and say, well, I don't do Laylatul Qadr, so I need to pray again, I need to continue because I reached not today. So don't just relax and thinking Friday that's just passed is the Laylatul Qadr that you've participated in, and that's it. Continue to seek Laylatul Qadr, because it is very much important. It might be the next few 2 odd days that are remaining within Laylatul Qadr. But as far as I know right now, I think Sheikh has made that very clear for us to understand, and I think we have understood exactly what Sheikh is saying, and we are going to be able to continue with those good aspects of Ramadan, and continue to make sure that we keep and seek Laylatul Qadr.
Inshallah.
So Sheikh, I just want to ask you now something basically for the reason why we're here, so that you'll be able to enlighten us again once more about the very much importance of what Ramadan is, and also another importance element of After Laylatul Qadr, we are now approaching the last few days of Ramadan, and we're now going to be approaching Eid al-Fitr. So I want you to, first of all, tell us why Eid al-Fitr, where the name came about, and what are the importance of Eid al-Fitr after the few more days left towards it.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yes, we have two Eids in Islam, and this is the hadith when the Rasul migrated to Medina, and he found that their people they had some celebrations, and the Rasul said to them that we have two Eids in Islam, and one of the Eid is Eid al-Fitr, like you rightly said. Now, Fitr means to break our fast, so it is the Eid or the celebration of the end of Ramadan.
Okay.
So in Ramadan we are fasting, which is Sawm, but when we break our fast, it's called Fitr. So on that day we break fast. So then that signals the end of Ramadan for that particular year. So that's why it's called Eid al-Fitr, because on that day as well we have to eat something before we go for our Eid prayers.
Okay,
you
so you have to eat. You don't have to fast for no reason
at all.
You don't have
to fast for no reason.
Okay.
And let me just add to that, the fasting on that day is also prohibited. It's haram to fast on Yawmul Eid. You shouldn't fast on Yawmul Eid at all.
Okay.
Because it is the day of celebration. The Rasul says about this Eid and the other Eid that ayama aklin wa shurbin wa dhikrullah. They are days of eating and drinking and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So when normally back home, when I say back home, I'm talking about Sierra Leone to be specific. When normally back home in Sierra Leone, people always go to the Eid prayers before they come home and eat. Does it mean they are still in that fasting mood? Or sometimes, I don't know, but sometimes we possibly haven't been taught to say you have to eat something before you go to perform the Eid itself. Because most times it's after we finish Eid prayers, we come home, and that's the time we celebrate and eat the huge amount of food that has been prepared. What's the significance of that? Or should it be the other way around?
Yes, a very, very important question, very important observation as well. But there are two Eids in Islam. The first one is the one after Ramadan, and that's called Eid al-Fitr, like you rightly said. And that is the celebration of the end of Ramadan with the breaking of our fast. So therefore, when the day is announced that tomorrow is Eid al-Fitr, then on that day, before we go for Eid prayers, we need to eat something. Dates, tea.
It can be anything.
Pap, yes, anything. Well, when we say anything, we have to qualify it halal. So, yes. But then, the difference between this Eid and the other Eid that's coming, which is Eid al-Adha, which is the Eid of sacrifice. You know, when people go to Hajj, and those who don't go to Hajj, they sacrifice, you know,
a lamb or
yes, exactly, a lamb or a cow or a camel, as you know, as per their means. So on that Eid al-Adha is recommended for somebody who is actually sacrificing the animal to the prayers.
Okay.
And then when the animal is sacrificed, and they can eat from the meat of the animal, or from the liver of the animal. Yeah.
So does it have to be the person who is officially donating the sacrificial animal, whether it be lamb, cow, sheep, or whichever you can afford? Does it have to be that individual, or the family, or the congregation?
It's preferably the person that's making
the donation.
The donation or the sacrifice, like the head of the family.
Okay. So basically, he's the only individual that should wait and participate in breaking like his fast on that particular Eid al-Adha. And okay, quite interesting.
Yes, it's better, and it's what the sunnah is. But if like any other adults want to say, okay, I am going to follow the practice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sunnah, and I'm not going to eat until I come back, then and that's fine. But we need just to remember that لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put a responsibility on a person or a burden on a person that they cannot bear. So if you're not strong enough and you're not economically strong and you are not the one actually donating or contributing, and you may not be able to fast during that short period from the night to the morning, when till you come back after the Eid. So it's not incumbent, it's not compulsory.
Okay, well, you've just heard it from Sheikh Baimba. The day for Eid al-Adha is different from the day of Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr is the one we call pray day in Sierra Leone, as we all know, and you have to break your fast. You have to eat anything that is halal, whether it's a cup of tea or dates or porridge, something that is halal before you go and do your Eid al-Fitr prayers. And then when you come now home, you can eat all the jollof rice, the cassava leaf, everything that you've always been craving for that you did not have during the period of Ramadan. So Sheikh Baimba, thank you very much for that update. I think that's very much important, because some of us have been missing the cue. Instead of us breaking fast, we still continue to maybe say, I wait till I come up pray down at the 10 hour, I can't feel say yes, I don't break fast officially. So it's good that you mentioned that, and I think that will go down very well for some of us Muslims who otherwise see it differently. So the other critical question that I always ask myself, why is it that we don't have a specific date for Eid al-Fitr? So when are we going to pray?
Yes, you rightly thank you very much. You rightly said it at the beginning, is when the moon is sighted. Because Islam has a unique system. It's an alternative system. Because we in the West and the diaspora, we and in most parts of the world, we follow the Gregorian calendar. January, February, March, April, and it's the solar system is based on the solar system.
Right.
So you have 30 days has September, April, June, and November, and those kind of poetic way of actually remembering the number of days in
all the calendar months.
In all the calendar months.
Yeah.
But because it's based on solar, right? It's based on the sun. But we in Islam, or the Islamic calendar, is based on the moon. So it's lunar. So, and the lunar is 29 or 30 days. So when it's 29, then we do what they call, we look for the moon, sighting of the moon. So when the moon is sighted, then the following day becomes the first of the next month. But then if the moon is not sighted on the 29th, then the following day becomes the 30th, and then the other day becomes the first. So that's the way the Islamic calendar works.
So before you go further, please let me just hold you there for a second. What sort of devices were used back in the days compared to now that we have technology for the sighting of the moon?
Well, back in the days, it was what naked eye. People go out, especially in desert areas, and they look for the moon. So what will happen is, because in the desert area, the sky is clearer before Maghrib, before we pray the late noon prayers. So if the crescent is seen, a small moon is sighted, then by somebody who is considered as truthful.
Should I say somebody that we trust, that
Yes.
we believe in, that
Exactly.
whatever he said that he has sighted the moon,
Yes.
it will be on concrete grounds to say, yes, we trust and believe his.
Exactly. So, and then it was also regional. So some region will say it and some other region will not say it.
Okay.
So because of that, some region will start Ramadan before others because they had to say it. And if the geographical area is so expanse that the news will not have traveled, so maybe they will sight the moon the following day.
So would that be of any significance?
Yeah, that would be of any. It would be of significance because it shows that when a particular region sees it, just imagine there was no radio, no internet, no television and stuff. So they are bound by the sighting to fast, to start their fasting, and in the same breath they are bound by the sighting of the moon to end their fasting. So if another region does not get the news, they can start theirs when they see the moon.
And that is not haram at all.
That is not a problem. But now that we have technology, like you rightly alluded to, so we have powerful telescopes that have been developed by scientists that they can see the moon, the crescent, when it's very small, when it's not even when it's not even noticeable by the naked eye. So then the information is disseminated to the world, and we can base our judgment of fasting on that. And then if it's also cited at the end of Ramadan, on the 29th of Ramadan, then we can also break our fast, and the next day will be Eid.
The other interesting question, even though technology has improved so much, we still have that sort of room for a little bit of concern to say, well, we have to wait for clarification. Why is that clarification so important? Even though technology has improved, that can actually pinpoint to say, yes, we've seen the moon today. Why don't we have a specific date to say, okay, we started fasting on the 10th of March, say we're going to be doing it for 30 days. On the 9th of April, we should be able to say, that's it, we've completed the 30 days.
Because I when I was young, I was actually following this up, and we had uncles who actually were dedicated. They're not scientists, back home. So they used to follow the moon, not on Ramadan. They used to follow the moon from the beginning of the Islamic calendar. So they will follow the moon. But the pattern of the moon is, they will say the last time the moon can disappear can be maybe on the 27th. So on the 28th, from what they were telling us, there's no moon. So you can only see the moon on the 29th.
Okay.
So that's why it's either the 29th or the 30th. So that's the nearest you can fix it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted it that way. So he put it in a way that I think it makes us be on our toes, to be looking and searching rather than laid back and then calculating and just following those calculations. I think this is also a good way, it's a practical way that we can actually monitor the moon as well.
Yeah.
And
keep on our toes to know when the moon is out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's and of course we also have those L.A.M.P, the white days, when they call them white days, not because of anybody's skin color, but it's because it's the time the moon is brightest, like on the 13th and the 14th and on the 15th. And you remember what happens in the villages when it's full moon.
Yeah, it's full moon.
When it's full moon,
yeah,
everybody is happy. Yeah. So on those days as well, it's recommended that we fast on those 3 days every single month, if you can.
Okay.
So it shows the significance given to the moon in terms of certain Islamic practices. However, it doesn't mean that we don't value the sun, but Islam guards against being sun worshippers as well as being moon worshippers. So we don't worship the moon.
Okay.
And that needs to be made clear, because there are people coming up and they say, oh, because you're doing this, maybe we're not worshiping the moon.
Okay.
We're using the moon as a guide. And that guide is being given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is a confirmed practice of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that's been reported by a multiple chain of narrators.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Sheikh, for that. I think this is the second clear clarification of the kind of misunderstanding that Islamic scholars or Islamic followers always have at the back of their mind to say. People ask, why don't we have a specific date? Why don't we have to fast from this day to that day? Because we know it's specific. But you've made that very clear. I mean, the sighting of the moon is very important, and sometimes When I see the moon, I said, okay, this moon is 3 or 4 days old. It's just my own interpretation. I can tell when it's full moon, and when it's on top of your head, that is when the full moon comes up. So basically, I have studied that sort of sequence in my own little way when I was younger, when I used to live in the village back home in Sierra Leone. So very important observations, and I think what you've made clear to us is also significant as well. Now let's go to the point. What is Eid al-Fitr? The importance of it. What do we need to do?
Yeah, so Eid al-Fitr is the Eid of the breaking of our fast. It's a day of thanksgiving. It's a day of celebration. It's a day wherein we start the day, like we said earlier on, by eating something.
All right.
And then we go to the masjid. We go to if it's raining, we go to an open place. Our wives, children, elderly, we take everybody out, and then we pray Salatul Eid, which is just 2 rakahs, and then they followed by 2 short khutbahs, 2 short sermons, and then we come back home, and like you said, we eat our jollof rice, our chicken, our stew, our cassava leaf, our fufu, you know,
Fufu
and any other food that people can have in their own cultural ways.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheikh. So we also need to talk about Zakat-Tu-Fitr before Eid itself. Tell us what is the elements of Zakat-Tu-Fitr and what is Zakat-Tu-Fitr and how should we perform our Zakat-Tu-Fitr before prayer day itself.
Yes, so Eid is a time of celebration. So that's how it ties into Zakat-Ul-Fitr. So when we're fasting in Ramadan, there are things that we may not have been doing correctly in our fast. There are things that we may have said that are not nice, maybe not correct. There are flaws in any human action.
So like human errors during Ramadan.
Yes.
Right.
So those, to compensate for those, then the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam legislated that we should give sa'an. It's called we should give sa'an, which is sa'a is a way of measuring, a measurement scale. We should give that in food and foodstuff to the poor. So sa'a means they say it's like your handful, you know, like the hand of a medium height person. You put your 2 hands together and you put it in rice or in wheat or barley, you know, or whatever foodstuff is local, and you measure it. 4 of that is called 1 sa'. But what they've done is in the Muslim world, Muslim countries, they have like a proper jug.
Okay, like a container for that specific.
Yeah. So when you do it, then it comes to the measurement of 1.
Okay.
So that's what you give in foodstuff, and you give it for anybody that you're responsible for.
So like every family members of yours.
Yes.
Are you talking about direct family members, as in the mother, the father, and kids directly, not causing uncles involved, just direct family member, like a nuclear family?
Well, you start with the nuclear. As long as you are the head of the household and you are responsible for them, then it is your responsibility to give Zakat-Ul-Fitr on their behalf and on your own behalf, as long as you have a day's food. It's like you're not hungry, you're not starving, you're not poor, you're not needy. So once you can afford it, once you are financially okay in terms of, you're secure in terms of food, you have food security for yourself and your family for more than a day or 2, then you can give Zakat-Ul-Fitr to those who are less fortunate.
So now that we have the last few days to Eid al-Fitr, do we have to still perform that ceremony before Eid al-Fitr itself?
Yes.
Because some people normally wait until the day itself.
Yes, it's better to give Zakat-Ul-Fitr before we go for the Eid prayers. Because there's two benefits of Zakat-Tu-Fitr. So the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, it's a tahara. It cleanses your fasting.
Right.
And then he says, ta'amun lil masakin. Then it is a source of food for the poor and the needy. And in another narration, he says, ughnuhum ani su'al fi dhalika al-yawm. So you need to prevent the poor and the needy from actually begging or asking for food on the day of Eid. And the only way we can do it is to give the Zakat-Ul-Fitr before the prayer. So this family will have food security. They will know that, for example, they have a bag of rice or they have 20 cups of rice, and they will focus on knowing what to cook with the jollof rice if they so desire, or with cassava leaf if they so desire. So it's good to give it before. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam actually said that it's good to give it before, because if you give it before, then it is considered as Zakat-Ul-Fitr. But if you give it after, then it's considered as any charity amongst the charity that you give.
So the idea of collecting Zakat-Ul-Fitr on the day itself in most masjid that I've been to, is it permissible?
It's permissible, but it's better that they collect it before the day of Eid, so that they can distribute it before the day. So collecting it on the day is actually late, because you're going to collect, and logistically, how are you going to distribute it so that it reaches the people who need it?
Yeah.
So what we have done is, and what most of the masajid have done, the mosques have done in the UK, they've started to collect it since the beginning of Ramadan. They started to motivate people, to remind people to do it. And once it's done, then they can be able, the committee or the management, committee and the executive they have ample time to distribute it so that it reaches the right people before the day of Eid.
So you're advising, if anybody wants to do their Zakat-Ul-Fitr now, should be able to do it now, reach out to the various different masjids that they are going to?
Yes.
Do you do Zakat-Ul-Fitr without going to the masjid? Can you do it on your own if you don't have access to go to the masjid?
Yeah, you can. You can do it. You can do it if you can't go to the masjid. Some you can send it to the masjid account and you reference that is Zakat-Ul-Fitr.
Okay.
And some masjid they will distribute it for you.
I think it's very important you mentioned that, because again, like I said, I have witnessed it like a million times, going to Eid prayers, and Zakat-Ul-Fitr has been collected on the day itself. And I thought it was just something that you have to do to complement your fasting during the fasting period of Ramadan. So say if you have a family of 4, and there is a specific amount that they will announce on the masjid to say Zakat-Ul-Fitr this particular year is £10 per head, is £5 per head. So you multiply that by the amount of figures that the amount of people that you're responsible for. But I think that goes mainly for a nuclear family setting. If you have a family of 3, you pay for your 3 kids and your wife and yourself, so it's a family of 5. And I think it's very important that you mention it to say we have to do that before Eid prayer. So the importance of it is for people to be able to have food to celebrate Eid with, which is very important. So what do you do on Eid day?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Before I come to what we do on Eid day, just to add to what you were saying, is the responsibility is on the head of the household. So if you have a nuclear family that you're responsible for and only responsible for, and there are 4 or 5 of them, yes, so then you will multiply it by the number of family members that you have. Last year it was £5 per head, but this year in our masjid is £6 per head. Some masjid will have something different, but you multiply £6 per number of people in your household that you are responsible for. However, if you are responsible for an extended number of people, like you living in America or you living in Europe, and you have family back home that you're responsible for, then those family counts as well. So for each and every one of those family, you will have to give £6 per head, even if they're a child. If then they have just born, you need to give it.
Sheikh, that will be a lot of money
on
for
their,
some people.
on their behalf.
Because let's be honest, if I put myself into that situation, I'm thinking about spending maybe £1,000 plus, because it means that's the amount of people that you possibly responsible for. That is not just your nuclear family.
Yeah, well, we need to make it. We need to make the distinction here. People that you help once in a while, that's not people you're responsible for. People that you take care. You provide food, you provide shelter. You are their main source of support. Those are people that you take care of. So even though you may have a wide extended family that you help out, once in a while, that does not come into the count. What comes into the count is people that you're regularly responsible for, and those people, their fasting is tied up just like your fasting is tied up to the Zakat-Tu-Fitr. Because in another hadith, in another narration, the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says Zakat-Tu-Fitr is suspended. Sorry, the fasting is suspended until Zakat-Tu-Fitr is given out. Therefore, it reaches Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So
Okay.
it's very significant that we do that. But coming to your question of what do we do on the day of Eid, we started explaining what we do on day of Eid before. You asked the question about Zakat-Ul-Fitr.
Right.
Eid is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Kulu washrabu wala tusrifu. We eat and drink and we don't go beyond the limit. And going beyond the limit means we don't do anything that's haram. So we're allowed to eat halal food. We're allowed to drink halal juice and water and those kind of things. But we are not allowed to eat or drink anything that's not halal. So is there, like the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say, ayam, the days of Eid are ayam aklin, they are days of eating, wa shurbin, and drinking, wa dhikrullah, and to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to praise Him, to thank Him for giving us the wealth, for giving us the health to go through Ramadan and complete Ramadan with us, with ourselves and our family in good health. So we're celebrating the Eid, but we're not exceeding the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another good practice on the day of Eid is to connect to our immediate as well as our wider families, to make phone calls, to check on our relatives, and then to check on their well-being, to make dua for them, and then they will make dua for us, and to say in the dua that's reported by most of the Sahaba, they reported that when it was Eid, they will say taqabbal Allahu minna wa minkum. May Allah accept it from us and from you.
Okay.
So that's the practice. So you're humble enough, you're not proud, you don't feel arrogant to say, oh, we've done Ramadan has been accepted. No, you're humble and you say, may Allah accept it from us and from you.
Okay.
So we need to also make peace with ourselves, make peace with our family members, make peace with our neighbors, make peace with our enemies if we do have one, because it's a day of celebration, and it's the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to as Yawmul Jaza, the day of reward, that He has commanded us to do something and we have obeyed Him.
Right.
Because He says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam, O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed for you, just like it was prescribed for the people before you. So, and then He made it very clear that ayyam and mahdudat, and they are limited period of days. So He's not going to kill anyone, And then He made it also very nice and said, Yuridullah bikumul yusra, that Allah wants ease for you. Wala yuridu bikumul usra. He doesn't want any difficulties for you. وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْإِدَّةَ, so that you can complete the specified period of 29 or 30 days. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ, and that you may glorify Allah, عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ, because He's guided you. So He's the one who guided us to the deen. He's the one who made it easy for us and our families to be able to fast, and our children and our wives. So we glorify Him. We thank Him.
So does the significance of the family influence in the celebration of Ramadan has anything to do with when kids will go and visit other family members to say we don't come for Salmafu? Does that have any connection to that?
Yeah, of course it has. It's part of the celebration. That's cultural. The Salmafu is cultural. Salmafu is actually to say we come in for Eid greetings.
Right.
You understand? So like you really said, so back home children will go from uncles to aunties to extended members of family, and they'll be given gifts, you know, and they'll be given food, and sometimes the tummies will be so full that by the time you come home you don't want to eat, you know. And it's also good because the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said we should connect with members of our family.
Yeah.
So it brings out the good in not only in the religion but in the culture. So the aunties and our aunties and our sisters and our mothers, everybody will be cooking.
Yeah.
You know, the night before the Eid, everybody preparing food.
Because they're expecting many people to come.
You know. So people come and the cuisines are so nice. So because you know you're going to be going to 4 or 5 aunties' house. So you don't eat too much. You want to eat a little bit here,
at home,
and then go there and eat a little bit, and then go and eat a little bit. But the most important thing is the gift.
Yeah.
And then also it's the movement. I hope you're relating to this.
Of course I am.
You start from if you're from Sierra Leone, you start from the eastern part, for example,
all
the way to the west,
and then you start to struggle to go back home.
And then those who are in the west, they will be coming back to the east.
To the east, and then they're
returning back home. So you have this movement of young people,
but primarily
young people, you know, and the houses are full. So you know your cousins. Sometimes you don't even see them because everybody's, you know.
The other element is the costume, the attire.
Yes.
Is it a way of recognizing families to say, all the way I should be, wear the same clothes? And is it part of the celebration as well?
Yes, it is. You brought something very, very important. You know, back in the days, you know, I think it was cheaper. You know, like we discussed earlier on, that if you buy, they call it a piece.
A piece.
So you buy a piece, yeah. So our mothers and our parents and our dads or our fathers will go out and buy a piece. You know, because if you have 4 or 5 children, or you have your brother or your sister's children with you, so it's easier for you to buy a piece and then take it to the tailor, you know, and the tailor will
everybody will have a yard or 2 or 1 yard and a half.
Yes, depending on their size, and everyone will have the same color. So it's a kind of way of identifying the family. So when you go into the prayer, you know, everybody's in that uniform.
In that uniform.
And when you're going, like you spoke about the visit, when you're going to visit the aunties, you know, you can be easily
identified. So this now, Mr. Kamal beginning.
Exactly.
Mr. Pabango.
Exactly. However, you know, as you grow older, you don't want you don't want to be associated with the younger ones.
Why is that?
You want your one. Well, for me, it was a personal thing. I just thought, you know, when you are older, a little bit, there should be
No, I'm not going to be wearing the same attire like my younger ones anymore. What sort of differentiation were you looking at? Is it by the style, or you have some other compliments of maybe your dad will decide to do blue brilliant this year, and then it's okay that I will take the blue, but I'll have to use some elements of white on mine. But you still have the connection of the blue that runs through the family still.
Oh yeah. It's you know, when you become a teenager, there's some styles that you will see. It's the same, like you said. It's the same piece of material, but then you want it differently. You know, maybe they want like a gown all down, or maybe you want like
something short,
something like a rappel, something that has trousers and and a top. So you want that distinction, and sometimes as well, you just want to show that you're growing up. So if the younger ones are going to have blue, you will say no, I want gray. We want gray. Especially if you are 3, 4, and and then because you always have to look at the cost.
Yeah.
So you minimize it. You minimize the cost on your parents and say, okay, you have like for example, you have 5 children, and the older ones will say, okay, we are 3, we are older, so we want our own, and then you can so the parents understand. Yeah, most of them, they understand,
So is there also some elements of, this is definitely out of context now, but similar to the sentiment that we're talking about. Does it have an economic value to people who are like tailors or dressmakers in Sierra Leone, if we're going to make that comparison to people who sell Muslim attire, especially when it comes to this particular part of the fasting period?
Oh yes. This the Eid period, in addition to other celebrations, is very, very busy for tailors and how are they called? Fashion designers. Yeah. Yes. So it's very, very profitable, lucrative for them. However, they get so much demand that sometimes they cannot even keep up, especially the last minute ones. So you have a situation wherein sometimes there's disappointment. Sometimes some people don't go for Eid because the attires are not done on time. However, we have some of our mothers, they were very clever, knowing that these things happen year in and year out. So what they would do, they would think of taking the attires, to the material, to the fashion designers before even the start of Ramadan.
They get it out of the way.
So they get it out of the way. So they make sure by the 15th or the 20th of Ramadan, that is sorted.
But that's a risk, because during Ramadan, people lose weight. For those who are fasting, because the same body size of you will have to reduce a little bit, you lose some pounds. So is it the reason why some of the people that wear their clothes, it looks big on them, and sometimes you can only wear it for Ramadan, and after Ramadan you can't wear it no more because you must have put on some more weight after the period of Ramadan?
Yeah, well, I think it would be better if you have a gown that's way bigger than your size, then you don't have anything to wear on the day. So people, especially for young children and teenagers, they like to go out on that day. So the difference and then the amount of weight they will lose will be less significant to the size of the size of the attire. However, like you said, if somebody puts on too much weight, then the attire wouldn't fit too much. So what they would do, normally these experienced fashion designers, they will always leave a room
in between.
They will leave a little bit of gap.
Yeah.
So if somebody's measurement is like 12, they'll make it 12 and a half, or they'll make it 13. So
okay, but on a very serious note, I know you need to wear a new attire, but does it really matter if you want to actually perform Eid prayers on that day and you don't have the means of purchasing a new attire? Does it really matter of what you wear?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You can wear a clean one. You can wear a clean clothes that you've used, that you've worn before, and you can also recycle. Say if you had a very nice attire last Ramadan, and you still have it and it's still in good condition, you can wash it and wear it as long as it's clean and you appear very clean and tidy on that day. It doesn't matter, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't look at our shapes and our forms. He looks at our hearts. Inna Allah la yanzuru ila suwarikum wala ila ajsadikum walakin yanzuru ila qulubikum. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't look at the form and the shape and the physique. He looks at what is in the heart. And we're going there to pray and to thank Him and to glorify Him. So being in the cleanness of attires and in our body is washed, we are clean, and then if we have perfume, we wear good perfumes. Yes, that's the essence.
It's very important that I ask that question because I think many Muslims all over the world are looking forward to Eid Fitr because they want to wear new clothes, and some feel disappointed of not having new clothes either because their family cannot afford it, or maybe it's not the right time for them to possibly wear new clothes. So it's very good that you mentioned that. That's why I asked that question. So now as we're coming closer to what happens after Eid Fitr, what do we do? What are the significance of, okay, you've performed Eid, and then what else? What happens after Eid?
Yes, thank you very much. What happens after Eid is very significant in our lives. Let's remember that Ramadan comes once a year, and every year Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides us with the opportunity to renew our faith, to renew our commitment to Him, to clean and to cleanse our sins, and to put us back on track where we've been failing in our salah, where we've been failing and being lethargic in the reading of the Quran, where we've been failing in reflective practice, where we think about where we're going, what are we here, what's our purpose on earth. And we sometimes lose that connection, with our Creator. So Ramadan comes, and this spirit or the atmosphere is rife with iman, with faith, with taqwa, with the consciousness and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we would have practiced the fasting for 30 days or 29 days as the case may be, and we would have been praying our 5 daily prayers on time to the best of our ability, and then we've been going to the masjid to pray Taraweeh. After Isha we pray 8 rakas, or 11 rakas, and then in the night we go at 2 o'clock or 2:30, or as the case may be in your geographical environment, and you pray other 8 rakas. So you come out of Ramadan, inshallah, you're clean, and your practice has been reset, your routine has been reset. So we want to hold on to that momentum, and so we're advising brothers and sisters to not let go and not go back to what you used to do. If, for example, you are a good person before Ramadan, so Ramadan has come and added to your goodness, so you want to hold on to that, and not let go. If, on the other hand, you are somebody who was laid back and you didn't care, but now Ramadan has woken in you the consciousness, the awareness of your purpose on earth, and it's brought you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what would you do? Would you want to sacrifice that? Would you want to leave that to go away? So that is what is not recommended, that you practice and then you let go. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَأَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. So worship your Lord until death do come to you. So there's no gap to be left. So we have to worship Allah min al-mahdi ila lahad, from the cradle to the grave. Well, however, it's actually technically not from the cradle, because we are not accountable and we cannot pray properly until we are over a certain age, and we are not responsible for any of our actions until we are a certain age. So let's say the age of puberty, right? And that differs from person to person. Yeah. So the age of puberty, when you attain the age of puberty to the time you're going to die, is the time that you are actually responsible for. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very kind and merciful to us. So what we're saying to brothers and sisters is, do not let go of your Ramadan good practices, and hold on firm to your religion, and try to strive to better yourself. And one of the ways we can do that is to follow up Ramadan with the fasting of 6 days in Shawwal, because the month after Ramadan is called Shawwal, and the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam recommended that we fast only 6 days in Shawwal. So he says, Man sama sittu Shawwal غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Anyone who fasts 6 days in Shawwal, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive their previous sins, his or her previous sins. So, but it should be in Shawwal.
What is Shawwal, the day after Eid itself, or what? How many days after Eid does Shawwal start?
Shawwal starts, so the day of Eid is the 1st of Shawwal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you remember we said when the moon is sighted on the 29th,
Mm-hmm.
then the following day becomes the 1st of Shawwal. But we don't fast on the 1st of Shawwal because the 1st of Shawwal is always the day of Eid.
Okay.
So we fast few days after that, or you can fast immediately after the day of Eid. But you are required to fast 6 days. And those 6 days do not have to be consecutive, meaning you don't have to fast them one after the other.
Okay.
So you can fast 2 days, 3 days on the first week, and then you take a break, and then you fast 1 day on the second week, and then you fast another day on the third, and then you fast another day on the fourth week.
So you can split it for any days. It depends on how comfortable you are.
How
with
comfortable you are,
Okay.
exactly.
it. Okay.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for that. I think that's very important because I think in the Muslim calendar, after Ramadan, people always say in Sierra Leone, you go left moon, which is what you just highlighted.
Yes,
And that's the importance of it.
that's the important piece.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's good that you've made it clear. I know some people know that you don't have to do it straight away, but I think I remember somebody asked me a couple of days ago to say after Ramadan, you go left the moon. And some people always say back, as in talk back at you, not in a positive way. Not to me bring the moon, why I go left and then those kind of ways. But I think the importance of it, like you've highlighted, is to do it, and you can split it to your own comfort. It doesn't really matter how you want to do it. But the day for Eid itself, you are not allowed to fast at all.
No, because it's a day of celebration. People will not be celebrating, and you become the odd one.
Yeah.
Right? It's not logical.
Okay.
Everybody's celebrating, everybody's eating, drinking, and you say you're fasting. So you become the odd, and it's not good for any community cohesion.
So one more important question I think we left out within the last 2 programs that we've done is specifically geared towards women during their menstrual period. They don't complete the fasting period. What do they do after it? Do they have to complete it if they've missed like 3 or 4 days? Because that question has been coming up a lot of times when I interact with women within Islam. They will say to you, oh, my fast has break, which means they're not going to continue their fast until after possibly a couple of days, and then they continue. What do they need to do to continue? Is it going to be immediately after Ramadan, which will possibly get into the 6 days of what you've just mentioned, or what do they do?
Right, thank you very much for that. Before I come to that, let me just add that the Rasul spoke about this, the 6 days in Shawwal, that if you fast Ramadan and then you followed it up with 6 days in Shawwal, you get the reward as if you have fasted the whole year. So what does it mean? So if, for example, we fast 30 days in Ramadan, and then we add 6 days to that, so that's 36 days.
Yeah.
Right? And Allah rewards each day with 10 ajr, with 10 reward. So 36 times 10 is 360. So it's like you fasted for the whole year. So what a blessing it is that you fast Ramadan and 6 days, and you are in the scale of your good deeds. Right? Your good deeds are credited as if you have fasted the whole year. And then put the other deeds that you have done in Ramadan. Say you gave a charity of £10, and that's multiplied in 10 folds. And say you were able to meet up with, you were able to actually be fortunate to worship in Laylatul Qadr, and you have 83.3 years added on your scale. And this is what Allah judged us by Yawm al-Qiyamah, the mizan, the scale.
Okay.
So that's why it's very important, because it doesn't go unnoticed. It doesn't go unaccounted for.
Right.
Right? And technology has made that very clear, you understand? And our brothers and our sisters who are accountants, they know this. You understand? If you have a company, you're running a company, and income is coming, and then income is going, and then expenditures are going out, you don't put them on the same.
No.
You put it's debit or credit,
Yeah.
right? So we all have people have debit cards, people have credit cards. So this notion of the scale, that's the notion of the scale. It's two hand, you know, what is good is on the right and what is not so good is on the left.
Yeah.
So therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala advises us, he encourages us to do good stuff, because the more good stuff we do, then we are adding weight to our scale on the right side,
right,
our right hand side, our right scale. So he says, فَمَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. Whosoever scale is heavy on the good side, then that person is endless bliss. فَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. But if your scale is light on the good side, فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٍ, then the hellfire that's called Hawiyah is going to be your abode. So we are encouraging brothers that on the day of judgment, when we are presented with our balance sheet, if you like, then we are given our books to read. Then people will say, "Ma li hadha al-kitab?" What's wrong with this book? La yughadiru saghiratan wala kabira. That there is not a single minor good or minor bad deed that I have done, but it's recorded there. So
right.
that's how detailed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. So because he has angels that record what we do,
right,
and what we say, our actions. So we need to be aware of this, especially as we are coming towards the end of Ramadan, and we know that the God of Ramadan is the God of Shawwal, is the God of Muharram, is the God of all the other months. So let us not be worshippers of Ramadan. Let us worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all round the clock, every time of the month, and we try and crave for excellence. Equipment, you updating yourself,
yeah,
right? People in medical field, they go for excellence.
yeah.
People in the law firms, they go for excellence. People working in hospitals, you know, people who are doctors, nurses, engineers, everybody goes for excellence. Everybody develops and upgrades themselves.
Yeah.
They will say, okay, in 1960, this is where we were, but now we're in 2004, this is where we were. So this is our journey. So your journey should be a journey of advancement, not of a journey of, oh, last year I was really good, but now this Ramadan. So that's lethargy, and that's you retrogressing rather than progressing.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to be progressive
Progressing.
in their choosing career. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make that easy for us.
Amen.
Coming to your question, when our sisters miss out on Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, فَإِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَامٍ أُخَرٍ. So they can repay Ramadan in other days.
Okay.
So after Ramadan, they can repay. Some of them, they have like 4 days. So because Shawwal is only 6 days, so they can be able to do their Shawwal as well as do their Ramadan.
You'll be counted as the same.
No.
Or you can do it separately.
They can do it separately.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if they are strong enough, some people can fast 10 days on a stretch, so they get everything out of the way.
Okay.
It's fine, right? But if not, then they can make a choice. Although scholars have different opinions. Some scholars are saying that it is because Ramadan is wajib, Ramadan is compulsory, so they should pay their compulsory debt first before they think of doing Shawwal. So, but if they don't have too many days, they can still make it, because the 6 days is in Shawwal. So say somebody has 4 days in Ramadan, and then they have to, they're planning to do 6 days in Shawwal. Mm-hmm. So what they could do, they could start doing their Ramadan, 4 days, right? And also, when they are paying back Ramadan, it's just like when they are doing Shawwal.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be consecutive as well.
Okay.
So they can choose any day.
They can choose any day.
Yes. And for those who have many days, right? So it's better to pay immediately after Ramadan, if they can. If not, they pay back and make up for the days immediately after Ramadan, or otherwise, if they want to take the route that's easier, they can do it in the winter months when the days are shorter.
When the days are shorter,
make it easy for us. Yes,
I mean,
but to add to that, and this is very, very challenging for the sisters. Sometimes the sisters will be fasting, and just a minute before the adhan comes on for us to break fast, then they will see their menses. Their period will come, and that day is not counted.
Wow.
Yes, so that day is not counted because of the natural sequence or cycle that's happened to their body. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward them immensely for going through almost the whole day and just coming towards the end, and it happens. So it's the challenge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to them. So they need to be very patient, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He will reward those who are patient. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for them and to make it easy for us as brothers as well to show an understanding.
Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. I think you've done a lot this afternoon, and I think the viewers out there will be very much happy for most of the clarification that you've made within the last few days when we are approaching Eid al-Fitr. But I will ask you one more time to actually highlight the importance of Zakat-Tu-Fitr to the audience watching, so they know the importance of it and when it should be paid, or when that contribution should be made, definitely before Eid prayers. So the floor is yours to the viewers, and the importance of why the Zakat-Tu-Fitr should be paid before Eid prayers.
Yes, okay. That's very, very important. Before we go to Zakat-Tu-Fitr, let's just remind our viewers that for people who are ill and they're going through different therapies like chemotherapy, or they have some other ailment or illness in their bodies and they cannot fast, but they are Muslims, then they can pay kind of like compensation. So for example, they will have to estimate what they will use to break their fast here in the UK, and then they will pay each day to somebody that is needy and that's poor. So for 30 days, for example, it will be £150. So that them compensating. So it will be as if they have fasted.
Okay.
So coming to your question of Zakat-Ul-Fitr, we are reiterating, we are repeating the significance of it, because the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam not only preached it, not only advised his companions to do it, he actually practiced giving Zakat-Ul-Fitr. Zakat-Ul-Fitr is the charity of Fitr, as a charity of breaking the fast, and it is Sa'an, it is Sa', which is called in Arabic Sa'. It is a scale of measure, and in UK pounds, in our masjid, it was £6 per head for people who you are directly responsible for. So even if it's a baby, it's £6. So £6 per head. So don't be clever, don't play clever. If you have 6 people, it's 6 times 6. If you have 7 people, it's 6 times 7. So some people will say, okay, well, you can give more, because the more you give, the more Allah rewards you.
Okay.
But you can't give less.
Okay. You can't give less. It has to be on the.
It has to be
above.
Above, or it has to be exact. Then it has to be paid. It has to be given out before Eid, right? And if for one reason you give it on the day of Eid, it's acceptable, right? But make sure you give it before you do your Eid prayers.
Okay.
Right? Because if you give it before Eid, it's still considered as Zakat-Ul-Fitr. And then the center or the masjid, they would distribute it.
Okay.
But because you've given it in time, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward it on the basis that it is Zakat-Tu-Fitr. And then, of course, it will be distributed to the people who need it most. But it's for two reasons. Firstly, is to cleanse your fasting because of the little mistakes, human mistakes that we have made, in our fasting of 30 days.
Okay.
And they said, like they say in English, to err is human. Every human being make mistakes.
Yeah.
So you would have made mistakes. You would have made some mistake. You would have said some things. You would have even contemplated on some of your thoughts that may not have been according to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it. So it kind of cleanses your fasting in that respect. And also it provides for the brothers and the sisters, your neighbors, who cannot afford food on that day.
Right.
So it will put food on their table. So happiness will be shared. It will not be a selfish happiness that you alone are full, you alone are happy, you alone have food in your house, and your neighbors' children are crying for hunger and starvation. So it's to share and make it very pleasant day for everybody. So that's the beauty of the deen, That's the beauty of the deen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is advising us not only to look after ourselves, but when we look after ourselves and we are okay, then we think about other people. So it brings the concept of live and let live, very much into practical play here.
Okay.
So we are happy on the day of Eid, but our happiness will not be complete and absolute if our families are not happy, if our neighbors are not happy, you understand? And so the food should be shared as well, and we advise our sisters and our wives and our aunties who cook on that day that they cook a lot of food, and so they can share to our neighbors, even if they are not Muslims.
Right.
We can reach out to them, and there are a lot of homeless people. There are people who struggle, so we can remember them on our day of Eid and share the love, share good feelings, and visit them and talk to them and explain to them what Eid is and how happy we are. And don't forget that there are parameters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set. He says, Kulu, eat, washrabu, and drink, wala tusrifu, and do not go beyond the limit. And going beyond the limit is to go in the haram territory, in the haram terrain. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless and guide us.
Ameen.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept each and every deed that we have done this Ramadan.
Ameen.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a very good end
Ameen.
in our lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our wives,
Ameen.
our children,
Ameen.
our businesses,
Ameen.
our places of work,
Ameen.
and to protect us here and to protect us wherever we go.
Ameen.
And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us better Muslims
Ameen.
every day of our lives.
Ameen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Baimba, for that. I think I don't know how much appreciation I have had with you during this month of Ramadan. You have changed my perception of
Thank
the
you.
way I used to look at Ramadan, specifically for two main important reasons. One, the Laylatul Qadr, and then today, the importance of doing the Zakat-Tu-Fitr before you perform the Eid Prayer. I think I want to say thank you for that. And I think most of our audience will appreciate the fact that you've made things very clear to them so that they will be able to understand the basic knowledge of Islam that is so lovable that people miss a lot within our communities. And I think that shared information that you've given us today will be very important to us. And I want to say this to viewers out there watching: don't forget to do your Zakat-Tu-Fitr before Eid prayers. I think it's very important. Sheikh has highlighted it. But Sheikh, one thing I want to ask, if it's permissible, would you allow us to put the account details of the North Brixton Islamic Center so that people can make their donation before Eid? Because I will say to you clearly, not everybody possibly have knowledge of this, and not everybody might be able to go to the masjid and make the donation if they want to make the donation to the masjid, for the masjid to make that distribution worldwide. Do you would it be okay if we put the masjid's bank details on the screen as we speak now?
Well, I think it would be. I think it would be okay. I don't see any problem with that. But I don't know whether is something that is something that has to go through. You know,
I'm just saying this is just for
yeah.
for easing the pressure on people
Yes,
that
it
might
could
not
be
have
done,
access
yes.
to do their Zakat-Tu-Fitr before Eid prayer. Because to be very honest with you, not everybody will be able to do it before in physical. But the account details of the masjid is not all over the world. It's not all over the place for people to be able to access it. Yeah.
Yes,
So
you're right.
it's just an authorization for me to say yes, you can use it.
Yeah.
But again, we can still use it just for relax the mindset of people who might not be able to go, because I know on that day the mosque will be full.
Yeah.
And that would be the time people will be paying their Zakat-Tu-Fitr, because
Yeah.
I've witnessed it
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
not once, not twice, not more than 10 times, and I've seen that happen a lot. And the only reason for that is because people don't have access to the bank details. People don't have access to the information that you just shared. People don't have access to where to make that donation. But you can still make the donation to people out there, and you can use it as £6, like you said. The North Brixton Islamic Center is making it £6 per head. So if you can make that calculation with the amount of family that you have, you can specifically make your own niyyah to say this is your Zakat-Tu-Fitr for your family, and you're giving it out to people out there who needs it. If you cannot do that at the same time, I think I will take authority to use the information of the masjid bank details to put it on the screen, so that if you can make your own contribution towards your Zakat-Tu-Fitr, the bank details will be on the screen. It is the bank details of the North Peckham Masjid Islamic Center. Specifically that. It's not going to be any...
Not Brixton.
Not Brixton, sorry. Not Brixton Cultural Islamic Center. It's not going into anybody's account. It's the North Brixton Cultural Islamic Center's account. So if you want verification, we can also put their number there for you to call and verify this is the account details of the North Brixton Islamic Cultural Center. You can make your Zakat-Tu-Fitr there before Eid prayers. And I know for sure many of you out there will not be able to make your Zakat-Tu-Fitr before, only when you get to the mosque. So I'm just making it easy for you so that you will not lose out in having that blessing of your whole period of Ramadan fasting without actually completing the Ramadan fasting itself by performing your Zakat-Tu-Fitr. So I would say thank you very much, Sheikh, for that. And to those of you watching, that is definitely what we need to do. And I want to thank you once more for taking your time, for coming to the L.A.M.P and sharing all your love and knowledge of Ramadan and in relation to Ramadan and Islam. And I think we're going to be having you here after Ramadan, like you've just highlighted. The importance of after Ramadan is to make sure you continue the practice of Ramadan so that you will not miss out on the importance of not just Ramadan. As we always say, some of we are Ramadan Muslims. Only when it comes to Ramadan.
True.
That's the time people participate fully in their Islamic practices. But it doesn't have to end there. If you can maintain the practical structure of what you've gone through from the first day of Ramadan to the end of Ramadan, continue with it, because it will guide you through the way of life, through Islam. So thank you very much once more, Sheikh. And on behalf of the Sirajan Media team on the L.A.M.P, I will say thank you for joining us, and don't forget to join us for many more editions of the Islamic studies coming from our Sheikh Baimba to you out there who's watching the L.A.M.P. So until next time, I will say Eid al-Fitr, and make sure you celebrate your Eid well. Don't do the unmissable. Don't think or plan after Eid prayers you're going to be doing A, B, C, D. Keep it holy as you have done it for the past 30 days and maintain all the structures of Ramadan. I will say to you, Eid Mubarak, and have a wonderful Eid. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.